Chapter 1. The World of Zanga. The first light of dawn crept across the crystalline spires of Terra, casting prismatic reflections that danced across the gleaming surfaces of the royal palace. Queen Petra stood at the highest balcony, her silver-threaded robes billowing softly in the morning breeze, her eyes scanning the horizon where the massive silhouette of Atocha could be seen in the distant landscape. Kemia watched his mother, sensing the weight of her thoughts. At 17, he had grown accustomed to the silent contemplation that often consumed the rulers of Zanga. The world was a delicate mechanism, balanced precariously between 6 tribes, each holding a fragment of power that maintained the intricate harmony of their civilization. Terra was different from the other tribes. While Goradia boasted military might and android Aya demonstrated technological superiority, Terra was known for its connection to the living essence of Zanga. And Kemia, with his unique ability to communicate with Atocha, was both a blessing and a mystery. "The relic stone grows restless," Queen Petra said without turning, her voice cutting through the morning silence. "Can you feel it?" Kemia closed his eyes. Indeed, there was a subtle vibration, a tension that seemed to pulse through the very ground beneath their feet. The relic stone, an artifact as old as Atocha's arrival 500 years ago, was more than just a symbol. It was the key to maintaining the fragile balance between the tribes. Each tribe possessed a piece of the stone, a deliberate arrangement to prevent any single group from achieving total dominance. The stone's 6 fragments were distributed among Goradia, Terra, Nova, Androidia, Omega, and the mysterious, unnamed 6th tribe, a group so secretive that most considered them little more than a legend. "Something is changing," Kemia responded, his hand unconsciously tracing the intricate communication node embedded near his temple, a genetic modification that allowed him to sense Atocha's electromagnetic communications. The massive robotic entity, standing over 300 feet tall, had transformed Zanga upon its arrival. It brought knowledge beyond imagination, technological advancements that seemed like magic, and a complex understanding of balance and harmony. Atocha was more than a machine. It was a guardian, a teacher, almost a deity to some. Queen Petra turned, her eyes, similar to Kemia's but with decades more wisdom, studied her son. "Your connection grows stronger. The elders believe you might be the key to understanding the prophecies." Prophecies. The word hung in the air like a delicate, dangerous promise. Whispers had been circulating through the territories, rumors of an impending shift, of a threat that could unravel the carefully maintained peace. The palace around them was a testament to Terra's unique approach to technology and nature. Living plants integrated seamlessly with crystalline structures, biomechanical systems that breathed and grew, reflecting the tribe's philosophy of harmony between organic and synthetic life. Outside, the city of Terra bustled with activity. Hover platforms carried workers, scientists, and artisans. Botanical structures that were part building, part living organism reached toward the sky. Children played in gardens where mechanical butterflies with iridescent wings danced among real flowers. But beneath the beauty, tension simmered. The other tribes, especially Goradia under the aggressive Emperor Romulus, had been growing increasingly restless. The balance was fragile, and everyone knew it. "Something is coming," Kemia said softly, echoing the feeling that seemed to vibrate through the very air of Zanga. "I can sense it." Queen Petra placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "The relic stone has maintained our peace for centuries, but nothing lasts forever, my son, and when change comes, it often arrives without warning." As if in response to her words, a distant rumble echoed across the landscape. For a moment, the communication node on Kemia's temple flickered, a brief, almost imperceptible signal from Atocha that suggested something significant was about to happen. The world of Zanga held its breath, balanced on the knife's edge of transformation. Chapter 2. The Theft of the Relic Stone. The first warning came not with sound, but with silence. The massive communication crystals in the central chamber of Terra's palace flickered with an unnatural pale blue light, casting ethereal shadows across the polished mineral floors. Queen Petra's hand froze mid-gesture, her intricate technological implants sensing a disturbance that ran deeper than mere visual anomalies. "Kemia," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "something is wrong." The piece of the relic stone kept within Terra's sacred chamber had begun to pulse with an erratic rhythm, its usually steady glow now dancing between intense brilliance and complete darkness. Kemia felt the vibration before he saw it, the connection with Atocha sending tremors through his neural pathways. "The balance is shifting," Kemia murmured, his eyes reflecting the stone's unstable luminescence. "Someone has taken a piece." Across the vast territories of Zanga, similar disturbances were rippling through the other tribes. In the militaristic lands of Goradia, Emperor Romulus stood from his obsidian throne, his cybernetic eye scanning holographic displays that confirmed the unprecedented event. The theft of a relic stone piece was more than a mere crime. It was a declaration of war. At the same moment, in the shadowy territories of the unnamed Sixth Tribe, a young warrior named Zara received her own cryptic message. An elder's holographic transmission flickered to life, revealing a face etched with ancient wisdom and immediate concern. "The prophecy begins," the elder spoke, his voice crackling with static. "You must Kemia of Terra. The stolen piece threatens everything." Zara's hand instinctively touched the intricate tribal markings on her arm, biomechanical tattoos that told the history of her people. She understood that her destiny was no longer her own, but tied to a larger purpose she was only beginning to comprehend. Back in Terra, Kemia prepared for a journey he knew of. His mother's instructions were precise and calm, despite the potential catastrophe. "The relic stone's theft means one of the tribe leaders seeks to disrupt our delicate balance," Queen Petra explained, interfacing complex holographic data with her neural implants. "Each piece represents not just territorial power, but a fundamental understanding of our world's deeper mechanisms." Kemia nodded, understanding the profound implications. The relic stone wasn't merely a political artifact. It was a technological key that maintained the intricate ecological and societal balance of Zanga, a remnant of the Alkalation race's original design when Atocha first arrived centuries ago. As he gathered his travel gear, a blend of organic technology and traditional Terra weaponry, a massive shadow passed outside. Atocha, the colossal robotic entity that had guided their civilization, seemed to pulse with an energy that matched the relic stone's erratic rhythm. The young warrior Zara would arrive within hours, guided by ancient tracking protocols and the urgent message from her tribe's elder. Their meeting was not a coincidence, but a carefully orchestrated moment in a prophecy centuries in the making. Emperor Romulus of Goradia was already mobilizing his forces, his ambition burning brighter than the stolen relic stone piece. He saw this moment not as a threat, but as an opportunity, a chance to finally break the centuries-old constraints and dominate Zanga completely. As twilight descended on Terra, casting long shadows across the technological landscape, Kemia stood ready. The stolen relic stone piece represented more than a missing artifact. It was the first tremor of a coming storm that would reshape their entire world. The quest to restore balance had begun. Chapter 3: Journey Through the Territories. The harsh landscape of Zanga stretched before Kemia and Zara like an ancient canvas painted in shades of rust and amber. Crystalline rock formations jutted from the ground, remnants of technologies long forgotten, glinting with an ethereal light that seemed to pulse with remembered memories. "The android Aya territory is treacherous," Zara warned, her hand resting on the energy blade at her hip. Unlike Kemia's refined Terra clothing, her attire was practical and worn, patches of adaptive material covering leather-like armor that shifted color with her movements. Kemia nodded, his connection to Atocha allowing him subtle insights into the terrain. Whispers of ancient algorithms danced at the edges of his consciousness, fragments of knowledge that hinted at dangers ahead. The communication crystals suggested we'll encounter multiple challenges before reaching King Cellula's. As they traversed the rocky landscape, strange mechanical creatures skittered across distant ridges. Some resembled insectoid constructs with metallic exoskeletons, while others were translucent energy beings that seemed more holographic than solid. Each movement was calculated, precise, survivors of a technological ecosystem that predated human settlement. Zara's training from her unnamed tribe became evident. Her movements were fluid yet controlled, scanning constantly for potential threats. She understood these lands were not just a journey, but a test of survival. Suddenly, A massive energy signature rippled through the terrain. Kemia stopped, his hand raised. Something's approaching. From behind a crystalline formation emerged a patrol of android IS sentinels, robotic constructs standing nearly 12 feet tall, their bodies a complex interplay of adaptive metals and pulsing energy conduits. Their visual receptors locked onto Kemia and Zara with calculated precision. "Identify yourselves," commanded the lead sentinel, its voice a perfect modulation between mechanical precision and organic inflection. Kemia stepped forward, activating a Terra diplomatic transponder. "I am Kemia, son of Queen Petra. We seek audience with King Cellulas regarding the Relic stone disturbance." The sentinels remained motionless for several calculating moments. Then, unexpectedly, they parted, creating a pathway. "Follow. The king will determine your authenticity." As they walked, Zara whispered to Kemia, "These are not mere machines. They're thinking entities." The android IA territory revealed itself in breathtaking complexity. Structures that defied traditional architectural understanding rose around them, buildings that seemed to breathe and reconfigure, adaptive environments that responded to quantum-level environmental changes. Massive data streams flickered like aurora above their heads, complex information networks that represented the collective consciousness of the android IA civilization. Each stream contained millennia of accumulated knowledge, a living archive more complex than any traditional database. King Cellula's central chamber was a marvel of technological sophistication. Standing 20 feet tall, the robotic ruler was less a mechanical construct and more a living repository of collective intelligence. Quantum processors hummed within his translucent frame, creating an aura of contained energy. "The relic stone's balance has been disrupted," Cellules announced, his voice resonating with multiple harmonic frequencies. "Your arrival was predicted in our probabilistic models." Zara stepped forward. "We seek the stolen fragment. Emperor Romulus of Garadia is believed to be responsible." Cellula's visual receptors focused on her, then on Kemia. Complex motivations drive this theft. The fragment is more than a political tool. It is a key to something far more significant. A holographic projection materialized, showing fragmented images of ancient alkylation technologies, cryptic symbols, and glimpses of a prophetic sequence that seemed to connect Kemia, Zara, and the stolen relic stone piece. "Your paths are intertwined," Cellulus proclaimed. "But the true threat lies beyond what you currently comprehend." As the projection faded, a sense of imminent challenge settled over the group. Their quest was transforming from a simple retrieval mission into something far more complex and dangerous. The journey to restore the relic stone's balance had truly begun. Chapter 4: Confronting the Power-Hungry Leaders. The harsh winds of the borderlands whipped against Kemia and Zara's faces as they approached the convergence point where the territories of Garadia, Nova, and Omega intersected. The landscape was a stark reminder of the fragile political landscape of Zanga. Jagged rock formations jutting like broken alliances, ancient technological remnants scattered like forgotten promises. Emperor Romulus awaited them in a massive obsidian pavilion that seemed to absorb the very light around it. His towering figure, partially cybernetic, gleamed with an intimidating blend of organic flesh and mechanical augmentations. Behind him, King Brannons of Nova and King Kunz of Omega stood like silent sentinels, their eyes calculating and predatory. "So," Romulus's voice was a mechanical growl, "the son of Terra and the warrior from the unnamed tribe arrive. Your quest for the stolen relic stone piece ends here." Kemia stepped forward, his connection to Atoka humming beneath his skin. Zara remained slightly behind, her hand resting cautiously on her energy blade. The mysterious hooded figure they had encountered earlier had vanished just moments before their arrival, leaving behind only a cryptic warning about the true nature of their mission. "We're not here to negotiate," Kemia responded, his voice steady. "We're here to understand why the balance is being threatened." King Brannons laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the pavilion. "Understanding? Your children playing at diplomacy. The relic stone has always been about power." King Canesis, more calculated, leaned forward. "The stolen piece is more than a mere fragment. It's a key to something far more significant, something that could reshape the entire world of Zanga." The tension in the room was palpable. Zara noticed subtle energy signatures building around the three leaders, technological preparations for potential conflict. Her training from the unnamed tribe had taught her to read such signs, and everything suggested they were moments away from an explosive confrontation. Suddenly, a holographic projection flickered to life between them. The image of Atocha appeared, not as the massive robotic entity they knew, but as a fragmented, ancient representation. Its voice was a complex matrix of sounds that seemed to speak directly into their minds. "The prophecy is unfolding," Atocha's projection stated. "The balance you seek to protect is merely an illusion. The true threat lies beyond your current understanding." Romulus's cybernetic eye flickered with rage. "Cryptic messages will not save you. The Relic Stone's power belongs to those strong enough to claim it." Kemia felt something stirring within him, a connection to Atocha more profound than ever before. Fragments of ancient knowledge began flooding his consciousness. He understood now that their quest was about more than retrieving a stolen piece. It was about preventing a catastrophic disruption to Zanga's fundamental existence. "We're not here to fight," Kemia said, his voice now resonating with an unexpected authority. "We're here to prevent a disaster that could destroy everything." Zara moved closer to Kemia, her warrior's instinct telling her that something momentous was about to occur. The leaders of Garadia, Nova, and Omega seemed frozen, caught between aggression and an inexplicable sense of anticipation. The hooded figure materialized briefly at the edge of the pavilion, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. Their presence suggested deeper machinations, connections to the alkylation race that remained mysterious and profound. As the confrontation reached its peak, the stolen relic stone piece began to pulse with an energy that seemed to make reality itself tremble. Kemia, Zara, and the three tribal leaders found themselves united not by choice, but by an impending threat that transcended their individual ambitions. The battle for Zanga's future had truly begun. Chapter 5. The Larger Threat. The chamber of ancient knowledge pulsed with an eerie blue light, casting long shadows across the weathered stone walls. Kemia and Zara stood side by side, their reflections flickering against holographic projections that revealed fragments of a truth far more complex than they had initially understood. King Cellules, his massive robotic form towering over them, projected a series of intricate data streams that danced between them like living circuits. "The theft of the relic stone piece is merely a symptom," he announced, his mechanical voice resonating with a depth of wisdom that transcended his metallic form. "What we face is a threat that could unravel the very fabric of Zanga's existence." Zara's hand instinctively moved to the weapon at her side, her muscles taut with anticipation. "Explain," she demanded, her eyes never leaving the holographic display. The projections shifted, revealing ancient symbols and fragmented images of the alkylation race, the mysterious civilization that had birthed Atocha centuries ago. A silhouette of the massive robot emerged, its form both menacing and protective, surrounded by intricate technological patterns that seemed to breathe with an almost living energy. "The relic stone was never just a political tool," Kemia murmured, his connection to Atocha allowing him to interpret the complex imagery with surprising clarity. "It's a containment mechanism, a seal." King Cellules nodded, his mechanical eyes focusing on Kemia. "Precisely. The 6 pieces of the relic stone are not just symbols of tribal power, they are fragments of an ancient containment system designed to prevent a catastrophic event." The hologram shifted, revealing a dark, pulsing energy that seemed to consume everything around it. Shadowy tendrils expanded and contracted, suggesting a sentient threat that had been dormant for centuries. "An entity," Zara whispered, her warrior's intuition sensing the malevolence even through the projection. "Something the original alkylation race sealed away." Kemia felt a surge of energy from Atocha, a warning that reverberated through his entire being. The connection between him and the massive robot had always been more than communication. It was a symbiotic relationship that carried the weight of an ancient responsibility. "If all 6 pieces of the relic stone are not reunited and properly realigned," King Cellules explained, "the seal will collapse, and what lies beneath will be released." The implications hung in the air like a dense fog. Emperor Romulus's theft was not just a power play. It It was potentially the first step in an unintentional apocalypse. "We need to retrieve the stolen piece," Kemia said, his voice steady despite the gravity of their discovery. "And we need to do it before the other tribal leaders realize the true stakes." Zara stepped forward, her warrior's resolve burning bright. "My tribe has legends about this. Stories passed down through generations, speaking of a darkness that was locked away. We always thought they were just myths." King Cellulus projected a final image, a complex geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with an internal rhythm. The prophecy speaks of two individuals whose combined abilities can reset the seal. One from a lineage connected to Atoka, and one from the unnamed tribe that has guarded the oldest knowledge. Both Kemia and Zara exchanged a look of understanding. Their seemingly random alliance was anything but coincidental. "We have 3 challenges," Kemia summarized. "Retrieve the stolen relic stone piece, prevent the tribal leaders from inadvertently destroying the seal, and prepare for a confrontation with an entity so dangerous that the alkylation race chose to imprison it rather than destroy it." The chamber fell silent, the weight of their mission pressing down on them like a physical force. The fate of Zanga, perhaps of entire civilizations, rested on their shoulders. Zara's hand found Kemia's, a gesture of solidarity that transcended their different backgrounds. "Together," she said simply. King Cellulus activated a final projection, a map showing the potential paths to their goal, each route fraught with its own dangers. The journey ahead would test everything they knew about themselves, their world, and the delicate balance that had maintained peace for centuries. The larger threat was awakening, and they would be ready. Chapter 6: The Final Confrontation. The sky above Zanga burned with an otherworldly crimson, casting long shadows across the fractured landscape where the final battle for the world's destiny would be fought. Kemia stood at the center of a massive circular platform, the stolen piece of the relic stone pulsing with an energy that seemed to breathe with anticipation. Beside him, the young warrior from the unnamed 6th tribe, Zara, gripped her fusion blade, her eyes scanning the horizon where the dark force approached. King Cellulus towered behind them, his massive robotic form humming with ancient technological power. The mysterious hooded figure stood at the edge of the platform, no longer concealing their true nature, and last surviving member of the alkylation race, whose knowledge would prove crucial in the coming confrontation. "The seal is weakening," the hooded figure spoke, their voice a combination of mechanical whispers and organic resonance. "If we fail to reunite the relic stone fragments and reinforce the containment mechanism, the entity will break free." Kemia's connection to Atocha surged through him, understanding flooding his consciousness. The stolen fragment in his hand vibrated in sync with the other pieces, creating a harmonic frequency that seemed to bridge dimensions. He could feel the weight of responsibility, not just for Terra, but for all of Zanga. The dark force emerged from a Tiran reality, a writhing mass of antimatter and corrupted energy that defied comprehension. Emperor Romulus, who had initiated the stone's theft, stood trapped within its formless structure, his ambition having transformed him into a conduit for the malevolent entity. "The balance must be restored," Zara whispered, her tribal training merging with the technological insights she had gained during their journey. Her armor, a fusion of organic materials and adaptive nanotechnology, shifted and reconfigured, preparing for the ultimate battle. King Cellulus stepped forward, his massive form creating a protective barrier. The alkylation prophecy speaks of a moment when unity transcends individual tribal interests. This is that moment. The battle erupted with a cacophony of energy weapons, quantum disruptors, and primal combat techniques. Kemia used his unique ability to communicate with Atocha, channeling massive technological constructs that emerged from the ground, wrestling against the dark force's chaotic tendrils. Zara moved with incredible precision, her fusion blade cutting through the entity's energy manifestations. Each strike was a calculated movement, learned from her tribe's ancient combat disciplines, and enhanced by the technological knowledge they had acquired. The hooded alkylation figure began a complex ritual, ancient symbols forming in the air around them. These were not mere decorations, but sophisticated containment algorithms designed millennia ago to imprison multidimensional threats. As the battle reached its crescendo, Kemia realized the true nature of their mission. This wasn't just about retrieving a stolen stone fragment. It was about healing a fundamental fracture in Zanga's existential framework. The pieces must align, the hooded figure shouted. Not just physically, but in harmonic resonance. Kemia understood. He began positioning the relic stone fragments, each placement sending ripples of stabilizing energy across the battlefield. Zara provided cover, her movements a dance of technological and organic warfare. The dark entity screamed, a sound that was both a weapon and a desperate attempt to maintain its dissolution-resistant form. Emperor Romulus's essence flickered within its structure, a tragic reminder of how individual ambition could become a conduit for universal destruction. In a final magnificent surge of energy, the relic stone fragments merged. A column of pure, transformative light erupted from the platform, engulfing the dark entity. The containment was more than physical. It was a dimensional realignment that would prevent similar threats from emerging. When the light faded, the landscape had changed. The platform stood intact, but the world around it bore the marks of their epic struggle. Zara looked at Kemia, a silent understanding passing between them. They had done more than save their tribes. They had preserved the delicate ecological and societal balance of Zanga. King Cellulas lowered his massive form, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. The hooded figure, their mission complete, began to fade, not in defeat, but in fulfillment. "The prophecy is complete," the figure said, their voice echoing with ancient wisdom. "Zanga is renewed." As dawn broke over the transformed landscape, Kemia and Zara stood together, not as representatives of their respective tribes, but as guardians of a new understanding. The balance was restored, but the journey of discovery had only just begun.